Wife was making the videos and photos for her affair partner while I was at home. I was attempting to enter into an account I share with my wife last week and couldn't remember the password, so I peeked at her phone while she was sleeping. We've been married for over 6 years, and this is the norm in our relationship. I proceeded to look at her images, and there were selfies and charged selfies among them, not her style at all. To cut a long tale short, I learned she'd been sexting and, based on context indicators, had a sexual and emotional connection with one of her coworkers. I was saddened and sat silently on my porch seat, trying not to faint/cry/breakdown. When morning came, she texted me, "Where are you? Did you already go to work?" As much as I wanted to shout at her the night before, I needed to calm down and not do something dumb. When questioned, she wept the normal, "I don't know how it occurred, I'm so dumb, I'm a ducking fool," according to what I've read on this sub. We haven't talked in person since then, save from a few messages concerning our dog's care and one email in which I essentially said, "I'm not ready to speak, but here are certain things I need from you." I went through some house/bills issues that I either required her assistance with or that she should be aware of. Plumber is coming Thursday, you're meeting him. I'm devastated and could never have predicted this. It's so far off from who she was for the most of our relationship that it came entirely out of left field. Right now, I don't see how we can work it out. Our marriage had problems, but we got through them. What is killing me is the substance of what they were talking and how they were discussing it. My wife was always closed off, and her previous boyfriend was judgmental, which didn't help. I've always encouraged her to express herself, but she's never done so. Outside of missionary is wild for us. This did make me happy, but it was something I'd come to accept. Her messages and images, which she would not provide me, were nasty and filthy. I'd be walking on clouds if they'd been to me, but they were him. I feel shattered after years of working on our sexual connection, as if I were the butt of a protracted joke. They also spoke about me as if I were a nuisance or a child. Does he annoy you again? It's okay, he thinks he knows how to F, but he's sort of lousy at that things and doesn't do it like you. I hope your husband doesn't come in. It'll be difficult to explain the wet patch on your side of the bed. I hope you got the idea. In contrast, I've been as good a spouse as I imagined I could be. She had a work-related long-distance assignment, so I upped the amount of time I spent on housework and duties. I made her a vanity so she could apply her makeup. We dressed up for a date because she wanted to. I'm more of a flannel man myself, but if it was for her, I'd do it. I prioritized her in practically every manner I knew how. Sexually, I've been as giving caring as I know how, and although she didn't always express it vocally, she always appeared content. Looking back, I see all the symptoms, but we were so strong, I thought, that I didn't see. During their affair, he came over for supper one night. She had a headache, went to bed early, and sent in recordings of herself using Zex toys while I was downstairs. Some of that final piece is so painful, emasculating, and perplexing that I'm completely confused. I'm not sure how I'll ever talk to her again, much alone contemplate being together. I met with a lawyer today about the next stages in the divorce process. In my state, you may depart like roommates and be separated. We've been apart for a week in that way. Is it correct that I believe there is no way out? Anyone else have a similar experience? I can't speak to friends or relatives right now because it's too hard to bear. It will be quite tough for me since I'm so close to her family. How did you all deal with it? How long did you have to wait? I know I doubt I'll discover the solution, but any help would be much appreciated. Also, for anybody reading this the night or day they find it, I'm just a week out and it does get better. Maintain your fortitude. Story 2. I found out my ex-wife was cheating on me throughout our entire marriage. First and foremost, please understand that I'm divorced, but just since October of 2014. For the most of last year, I worked hard to prevent divorce, and I cared strongly for my ex-wife, which is why the news I received lately was devastating. On January 28th, while staying at my mother's house, I travel for business and don't presently have a home, plus it's free. I was reading my emails when I saw a LinkedIn notification. I didn't check it in a long time and figured it was past time. I assumed it was a job offer from a recruiter in my industry. The message simply said that this man had critical information that I needed to be aware of and that he would want to speak with me over the phone about it. I answered with my phone number since I was interested. My phone called a few minutes later with a number I didn't know. I ignored it, assuming that if it was a job offer, they would have left a message. There was no message left. I dialed the number again, And that's when my life changed. It was one of my ex-boyfriends, apparently wife's her most recent one. Keep in mind that I had very well moved on by this time. I didn't communicate much with my ex. We write each other every now and then, but that was about it. It was a difficult divorce, and I decided I didn't want anything to do with her again. So her ex-boyfriend informs me that she was boasting to him about a 2-year romance she had right before we married, and that it had continued after we married. We had relocated across the nation, and she had continued to cheat when we arrived, all while I was on business trip. He went into depth about some of the things she did that I don't want to repeat, things I never imagined were possible. F up things. All I could think was that this was some terrible prank, a very messed up comedy. He did, however, tell me things that only she would know, things I confided in her, thinking she'd take them with her to the grave. I'm not sure what to think at this point. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to murder this man or buy him a drink. We chatted for a while, and he said he'd get back to me with further information if I wanted it. And I did it right then. I was whirling from the unlucky information this person had just bestowed upon me. I couldn't stop shaking. I called several of my closest friends and told them of what I had just learned. People I had faith in. I felt it was better to have many drinks. At that moment, I didn't want to feel anything. I needed to feel numb, and booze was my only option. I decided to SMS my ex-boyfriend that I didn't want to know anything else as I was swimming in whiskey. There is nothing. I'd had enough of the agony for one day. I got a message seconds after I clicked send saying that 2 of my dearest pals knew. To say the least, I was taken aback. There isn't one. They would have informed me. It's not them. They're its children who contact me. Uncle J. Never, ever, right? Drunk me chooses to inquire, as if any more harm can be done. Boy, was I wrong. I was horribly wrong. They acknowledged to being aware. Absolute insanity, folks. I was stunned at that point, crying hysterically and uncertain of whom I could trust. I was seeing my whole life burn to ashes, and all I wanted to do was leap into the flames and burn with it. Drunkby decides to text my ex-wife. Fantastic idea, right? I just ask her, did you cheat on me the whole time we were married? I never wanted you to find out because I knew how much it would upset you, she says. Yes, it harmed me. It annihilated me. I had to return to work days after our vacation in Hawaii. Use your imagination, kind people. Days after saying I do. Despite this, I've forgiven my pals and my ex-wife. I have a plethora of reasons to despise them. Perhaps I'm being naive or dumb in doing so. I don't have it in my heart or spirit to carry that type of hatred. Say what you will about me, but that's not the kind of person I want to be. It had taken a lot of effort to move on from her after we split, but I was finally doing so. I'd crept out of my hole and was basking in the light. This thrashed the living daylights out of me, kicked my teeth in, and flung me back down there. My faith in the world I had known was completely shattered. I had never imagined that such awful suffering could ever be a reality, at least not in my life. It's been 11 days since I found out. My life has been contaminated for the past 5 years. I'm having trouble sleeping. I become lost in my thoughts, down a rabbit hole of questions, and only more questions to answer those questions. The point is, I know I didn't do anything wrong. I know I was gone a lot for business, but I did all I could to make this lady happy. Is it even necessary for me to understand why she made the decisions? I'm no saint, and I'm not without flaws, yet I can't help but feel like I'd done something wrong. I felt like I could have done more. And what bothers me is that she treated me like a worthless bag of during our divorce, as if I was the bad person for leaving, for abandoning us. I think in the process of healing. For the most part, I'd come to grips with it. I still have worries and concerns about the world around me, but I'm doing my best to go ahead. Despite being handicapped by the environment around me, I'm determined to crawl out of my hole and back into the light. I simply wanted somewhere to let it all out. FFS, I'm not even sure if this is the appropriate place to do it. It's unfortunate to read some of the other comments here, but it's comforting to know I'm not alone. Pass my tail.